Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We're doing something a little bit different, actually a lot different today. We stepped out of our comfort zone. We're not in a coffee shop, as you can tell. But we are actually coming to you from the 1028 Podcast Studio in Sharpsburg, home of the 1028 Podcast.
Absolutely.
And we are here today for episode number 45 with this young fella to my left, Corey Ochai. Some of you who are regular viewers of the podcast will remember Corey from the Really Big Faces episode. We had him on with a few other folks and had a great conversation, and we stayed connected. And I've been watching. He had said you wanted to do a podcast and started up, and you were building out a studio at that time, which was in the summer. Yeah. And you really did it, my man. You did everything that you said you were going to do. So
it's still growing, man. How's everybody doing, man? It's an honor to be on there. Again, a second offender.
It's an honor for us to have you. Listen, we were intrigued by your story and just what you shared, the tip of the iceberg that you shared. Yeah. And I'm glad we stayed in touch. I've been watching how you were getting this, launched and getting everything taken off. Yeah. And I'm proud of you, man, because this
I appreciate that.
I was saying this earlier. You actually built your vision, which a lot of people struggle to do. You can see things, but taking that vision and bringing it into reality is sometimes difficult.
Yeah, man, it's definitely tough. It's definitely tough, and it's supposed to be. I think we a lot of times go through life thinking that some of these things that we want should be easy, but I don't think that's how you create something that's sustainable. What comes easy goes easy. So I look forward to creating a vision in my mind and trying to make it something that's concrete. And I know it's a journey. I know it's going to be some walls that I'm gonna have to hit. Right. And through my life, continuously doing that, I found out that's where I strive at, man. That's my joy, and that's the thing I love. I love to see something that took time to build, and goodness gracious, it happened here. That's
exactly right. And you're a creator. You're a creator by nature. That's who you are. And this is your work behind us, obviously. And the thing I like about that I love about this is that these pieces here are direct reflection of your journey.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
King by Darkness and these things are a direct reflection of you. That's how I know that this comes from your heart, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's, anything that I create, I want to make sure it's authentic. It's truly something that represents who I am and who I am on my journey. Mm-hmm. So that comes from my art. That comes from any business that I do. I don't want to do a business that doesn't fit my core values. Sure. So when it comes to like the 1028 Podcast Studio, I wanted to create a place where conversation can happen, because I feel like that's something that is missing, and that's I wanted to create something that's going to add value where I can do that, all the time. Yeah. So there's not a job out there where you can, a lot of times where, they'll give you the ability to talk besides the radio and all that stuff. So, I look at it like I like to be a clock builder, not a time teller.
There you go. I love that.
So I build the things that I tend to want. And it's usually, it all ties into what I believe in and finding those things and then creating something around those. Mm-hmm. When it comes to my artwork is, it really comes from it's like my soul on the canvas. This King by Darkness was the one you kind of, caught your eye when you came in here. And it's
because that spoke to me because of my journey.
Absolutely.
So tell me about this.
Let's talk about that because
that ties directly to your story.
Yeah, so King by Darkness is a representation of my journey, where when I found out that the worst thing that ever happens to you usually has the best impact on your life. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where when times are hard and you're going through the voids of this trials and tribulations, that's where you collect the gems. That's where you collect the advice and you take the notes to take in the future, so you can actually get the win. And it's really a beautiful thing. Most people kind of back away from struggle. They back away from those anything that's going to bring harm or discomfort. Sure. Where I found out that that's kind of it's not a struggle, it's an opportunity to take information and to use that information for later. So a lot of times when something bad is happening, or I feel like something that's not favorable to what I want happening, I look at it and I actually am happy about it sometimes, because I know it's an opportunity for me to learn.
You're exactly right.
You're
exactly right. Most people, when something negative happens, they try to keep it out here. They avoid it. But if you let it in and you feel it, then that's how you see the lesson. Right?
Absolutely.
You don't obscure that. If you try to hide from it, then you're obscuring the lesson, and you're not growing from that. And that's why we're all here. We were put here to grow. Right?
Absolutely. I say anything that's not growing is dead. Even rocks grow. You know, anything on, and that's what I think I took that from like Lauryn Hill. I've seen her do it in like a thing. But you said something that was real. There was a saying that life is the only teacher that gives you the test before you get the lesson. You know what I mean? So that's I understand that things are going to happen. The fall is common. That's what I'm finding out. The fall is the thing that's not unordinary. That happens to every living thing in this world. It's all about, what do you do after the fall? And that's what all these pieces come from a fall. And it's my steps that I take to or these are like the little documentations of the notes that I have of what I do after the fall. What should I do after the fall? And these are all reminders. This is a journal, really.
Well, and that's important, because you have to develop a relationship with your past if you're going to grow forward.
Absolutely.
If you're going to have a future, you have to develop a relationship with your past. You have to come to grips with that. I wrote my blog this morning. I called it "Burning Down the House."
I know. I read it. I've read it.
And for the longest time, I struggled because I hid. I didn't take responsibility. I was looking for that villain, right? And I looked and looked and looked. I looked under every rock, around every corner, and there just wasn't anybody to be found. And then after a long time, it hit me. It's like, it's got to be me, right? So what you told us, and I'm gonna dig into the beginning here. Right?
Okay, definitely.
You had, at 19 years old, you got news that was more than a punch in the gut. It was something that would have knocked anybody off their feet. Right?
Yeah. It makes me smile because it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
That's beautiful.
So when I was 19, I was diagnosed with spindle cell sarcoma stage 4. And like I said, it was literally the best thing that ever happened to my life. And without it, I wouldn't be on this journey right now that we speak of, and with the insight of what I believe life is for me. It was tough. But, before that time, I was in the streets, man. I was living a reckless life, and the way I was living, I didn't expect to, like I think you said on the last podcast, I really didn't expect to make it past, 23 or 24. I have pictures at my mother's house with literally 6 of us, and only 2 of us are alive, and me and my brother. And my brother's been incarcerated for 16 years. So that kind of tells you the company I was keeping.
Sure.
So I wasn't living like tomorrow existed. I was living just for the moment and trying to just get the best out of the moment. So, who cares about tomorrow? If I don't make it, I don't make it. If I die, I die. It's kind of the mentality I had. But when I was blessed with the gift of cancer, I'm going to say it like that. When I was blessed with the gift of cancer, I'm going to have to name a piece that as well.
No, listen,
I love
that is so powerful.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, cancer's touched every human being.
Absolutely.
Right? It is just, it's that thing. And we all can relate to that. But what you just said, the gift of cancer.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I never had to, when that happened to me, it made me realize, like, someone that's not afraid to die is just scared to live. You know what I'm saying? So it was, that's what I realized. I didn't appreciate this 24 hours that's given to us. And I never had to really fight for something that was actually valuable. You know what I mean? So when that happened, it was an eye opener, and I looked at it as a challenge. I'm very competitive, very petty as well. So if God, I was upset. I said, "Oh, you think you're going to take me out like this?"
Did you have the why me moment?
Yeah, the why me. Yeah, I did. I had it, but I made it that it was short, because I was like, I took it as a challenge.
Okay.
I said, "Oh, you want to take me out like this? I'm not going to die." I'm going to tell you the story. So when I found out it was me and my mother, and my brother, like I said, was been incarcerated for about 16 years. This is right before this happened. So he was already in jail. My mother already lost, one of her babies, to the system, so I'm now the oldest. I am now the kind of the man of the house. I can't break down. I got to make sure I give her everything she needs. She just went through a whole trial, and seeing her oldest son, be shipped off for almost 2 decades. You know what I mean? So, it was tough. It was tough. So, and then she gets, the news that her next son has cancer. So we went to, God bless her. She's amazing. Shout out to my mama.
There you go.
I love you.
Listen,
you're the best.
It's amazing when we look for an example of true strength and courage.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily look to our moms first, but that's where we should be looking, because that's they've seen some things and been through some things that we can't relate to.
And she stays smiling. My mom. My mom is somebody who smiles all the time and treats everybody like you have to prove to me that you're not a bad person, because I'm gonna treat you as if you are. She's the best. I love her to death, man.
Awesome.
So we found out that, I had a tumor on my leg. I had like a mass, and we had to find out if it was benign or malignant, which means is it positive or negative. So we're in the doctor's office, and I'm looking at her, and she's nervous. She's looking at me. She's more worried about how I'm going to react. And something happened when I was waiting for Dr. Goodman to come back into that room and tell me. I already made the decision in my mind, because I was just like, I don't know what happened, but I made a decision in my mind. If whatever he came and told me, it was going to be all right, and we're going to go forward. Okay. And so he came back in there, and he told me to sit down, so I stood up. I said, I'm not going to sit down. Whew. So I told him, no, I'm not going to sit down. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take it like that. So, and he was like, okay, you got cancer. And I looked him dead in his eye, and I said, all right, that's cool. How do we beat it? Because that's what's going to happen. And that's what we did. And that's what we did. So he's like, he said, when do you want to start? When do you want to get the port in? I said, let's do it as soon as possible. Let's do it tomorrow if we can. And we shot, and I didn't shed a tear at that moment.
Sure.
At that moment, I stood tall, because I know that woman there has already been through enough, and I realized if I'm not going to do this for myself, I can at least do it for her. So I think what that was, but I had to do it for her, because I wasn't going to do it for me. And that's what I found out in my life. I have to make a situation bigger than myself. It has to be bigger than me. For me to actually do it and do it the right way. I have to do it for my family. I have to do it for the community as well as myself. It has to be bigger than me, for me to go all the way through a wall for it and make it actually happen. So when I did this, I didn't do this for me, and particularly I did this for the world. You know what I mean? And I was like, I can't let the world down. And that's sometimes the motivation that I need to push through the walls that I'm gonna have to push through.
Mama raised you right, young man. I mean, in that moment, when you took that punch, you stood up and took that punch.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you were thinking of her.
Absolutely.
Right? In that moment when you should have been thinking, it would have been perfectly cool and justifiable if you were selfish in that moment.
Right.
Right? But you weren't. Right? Yeah. You put her first. You were raised right.
Yeah, and it was the first time it was that I ever felt that. Like that I probably felt it before. It was the first time I ever identified it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I know that that seed was planted, because when you got kids, right? We tell our kids these profound things, and like, oh yeah, we tell them these, things that we've heard from philosophers and stuff like that. We think they're not gonna remember that stuff. Right. What they remember is how you move. They remember how you move throughout your day. They
watch more than they listen.
Yeah, they listen. They listen with their eyes.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
and that's what it is. So, the way she moves, my mom worked, she would work 2 jobs. She would work 16 hours a day, and she come on with a smile on her face and still making sure we got something to eat, all those things.
Right.
And yeah, we struggled, and yeah, I chose a different path, but can I say I had to? No, it was just like choices I made, but
Right. You knew right from wrong at that point.
Absolutely. And that's all I needed to know,
right.
Was if she taught me right from wrong, but she also taught me to, she gave me love. Like I can say I was loved, I may have chosen some wrong things, but I needed those wrong things to get to the right thing.
Home didn't push you there.
No.
Right. You made a choice to go there. Home,
absolutely.
And that's the thing. It's easy to blame something over here, right? But you had it good at home. I mean, you had love and you had a loving home, right? Your mom gave you a loving home. So you made a choice to go out to the street.
Absolutely. There was the other options, but that's the choice I made. And that's what happened.
Sure.
And I can blame it on this, that, and the other, but that was the unbiased view of it. Right. You know what I mean? That's really what it was. That was a choice. Everything's a choice. Anything that happens. Yeah,
that's where that came from, right?
Where,
Now, let's jump to that. We're going to bounce around a little bit because that's what conversation is. So tell me a little bit about Atithi Studios next door, and then let's talk about your recent exhibit.
Oh, yeah. So, that's also something that this past 2 years, I just became, I can say, a full-time artist 2 years ago.
Okay.
It started off, that's a story in itself.
Go ahead. Let's go.
Ready to go?
Let's go.
All right. So 2.5 years ago, this guy that you're listening to or looking at, whatever way you guys are consuming this information, was a security guard. And it was one of the best jobs I ever had.
Is that right?
I'm gonna tell you, most people's like a security guard, one of the best jobs I ever had. And I'm gonna tell you why, man. I'm gonna tell you why. So I was doing, it was, times is tough, but I had to make a living and I wanted to make an honest living. So I'm working. I don't have a college degree. I never, I've tried college, but I also was dyslexic but / illiterate till I was about 29, so I never felt like I had the confidence to do that. We can get into that as well. That was a crazy story, but I wanted to be I was like, let's do security. So they put me into a place right before the pandemic hit, which was on the Fortune 500, she was on the S&P 500, stock market, very high end place. And I was at the headquarters of this place. And then the pandemic hit. And the building was pretty much empty, but they still needed security guards there because we were like insurance, for the building. It was necessary. It had to be. So the only people that came into the building, though, were the execs because they weren't traveling the world. It's an international building. So, but they still came into the building every day. And of course they got to get the temperature taken, right? So they come down to the front desk. So every day I got a chance to talk to these guys. Well, at this time I was already reading and investing and so forth before the pandemic and that whole craziness in the market. Well, I was like, I really want to know some more things about the market. They have a CFO here. So every morning I would the morning before or the night before, I would write down questions to ask these guys. I would only have like a minute. They were in and out. So I would ask them, hey, how you doing? Hey, I was reading this today in the Wall Street Journal. And like, I wanted to know what's a SPAC, what was, how did they, use equity to buy other companies, those little things. And he would just give me these little gems. And then it got to the point where, what books are you reading? And I started buying those books and then reading them and then asking them to like, what did they take on this and that? Okay. Well, they seen something in me. They seen something in me. So now, no one's in the building. And at this point, conversation is, we find out how important it is because we can't have it with everybody. Right. So it was more cherished. So these guys would come down during the lunch break and like, we would sit there and we would chop it up. Yeah, me and them and the security guard. It was real. The CEO, man, shout out to him. I really want to keep, And
that's fantastic because a lot of guys, even in that moment where we were all turned upside down, still wouldn't do that with a security guard.
Yeah.
They would look like, okay, I'm here. The security guard's here. Take my temperature. Let's go. Just make
But
a little bit of small talk. But
this also told me what type of people they are.
Exactly.
You know
that's
what I mean?
Cool.
And that's what I said. You know, I thrive to one day be able to be financially stable, but I don't want to lose my soul in the process.
Right.
These guys and these guys and women were absolutely the opposite of what I would expect them to be. They would have did this, I believe, if the pandemic wasn't happening. This was in them. So I knew I was talking to the right people. So I have the type of mind where I probably could have left a lot earlier, but I stayed because of the relationships and the mentorship that it turned into.
Sure.
You know, one of the
you can't plan a mentorship. You can't plan that.
No,
right. That has to happen organically.
Right, and it does, and also they learned a lot from me. It was literally a vice versa thing. You know, they would ask me a lot of questions because I got, I have feet on the ground. You know, I'm seeing, certain things that they may not be able to, witness. So they got a chance to ask me a lot of questions as well, and we just developed a real relationship. But there was one of the execs in charge of human resources of this place. This lady was absolutely life-changing, because this is when I really started really digging in on books. And I asked her, because I was thinking there had to be one book that they read that just changed their life. And I asked her, this was my mindset. And I asked her, I was like, what book did you read that changed your life? And she looked at me and said, what book did I read that changed my life? It was more than a book. It was all these experiences. And the books may have given me the direction to go, but I had to walk that direction and really make it concrete. And then she was like, then the relationships. It's so much more. It's never one thing, but there is these things do have to exist, and it changed everything. For me, because I was like, because I was thinking, if I read these books, I'm gonna find out what these secrets are. No, I know a lot of people that know a lot of stuff, but don't do a lot of stuff with what they know.
Right.
So I think it's not about what like they say knowledge is power. I think that's wrong. Use knowledge is power.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I know exactly what you're saying.
Having knowledge is potential. So it was like, okay, you're reading all this, you're learning all this. What are you doing with it? Because that's when it becomes concrete and actually real. So that's what I started doing. I would ask the CEO, what books were you reading? And he told me. Then I was like, okay, I took that information and started trying to apply it. So I had the idea of how to market, how to advertise from this job as a security guard. Let me bring that back, guys.
No, that's amazing in itself, because that's not how you don't learn marketing as a security guard.
Yeah, and I mean, they would bring me in for their meetings when they were talking about acquiring other businesses and stuff like that. I was able to sit in on meetings what they had. They were at the million battery exhibition that Elon Musk put on during the pandemic, when everybody was in the cars and they were honking the horns. Yeah, he sent me pictures and everything with him and Elon. It was crazy. Man, I had all the information that I believed that was necessary to equip me with the confidence to go out there and start a business. But there was one thing I didn't have. It was a product. So remember I said, I want to create something that's truly a part of me. So I wanted to test some of this information out. So I was like, let me try with a t-shirt and create a design just to see how this advertising and marketing is, get this concrete evidence. And so I was like, all right. So I went to these tattoo shops, the ones that were kind of open. And I was talking to some of the artists like, yo, can you create this for me? Create this for me. And then none of them would do it. So I was like, let me just create it myself. So I started to sit down and draw, and I started to sit down and draw some more, and then I couldn't stop. And then I realized I'm gonna do this myself. And man, and that's how.
So you weren't doing art until that point?
No, I tapped into art before because of art therapy, but I kind of lost the juice for it. But during the gifts of the pandemic kind of gave me the opportunity to fall in love with it again. And
so you kind of just dabbled in it here and there.
And I kept creating pieces, and then that coffee shop across the street, they seen me because I would be there. They was like, why don't you just do a show here? I did. And
that was what, 2 years ago?
2 years ago. That was that one right there. And I marketed it and advertised it. That's where the flyers over there.
Well, that's amazing when you look at this is talent right here on this wall, right? This is talent. This is God-given. This is a God-given gift.
I appreciate
right?
that.
You didn't learn how to do that in a classroom or out of a book, right? So the fact that like this has all come out of you really in the last couple of years, right? That's amazing in itself. I love it.
It's been a beautiful journey, and what that actually tied into, because right before I did my show, I said, you know what, I'm quitting this job. I had to quit the job. And I went to the CEOs and all the execs, and I told them I'm leaving. I said, I'm out of here. I think it's time for me to go. They said, we're not even going to wish you good luck. We're just going to shake your head and say, go get them. And I quit my job. I got my first little art studio, and I did my first show over there at Red Hawk. Shout out to Red Hawk Coffee. And
good stuff. Very, very good.
Great stuff, man. Brewed by the best. And they brew it as well as it's the best place in the world. And I did the show over there, and that's when I met the investor for Atithi. That's how Atithi came to be.
Really?
Yeah, so it was 3 months into the process of me quitting my job. I did my first show. We sold out. I sold at least 80% of it, the pieces. But that's also the day I met the investor, the main investor, Sukanta Nag, at that show. And we were sitting outside right there, and he was like, I'm about to buy the building, which is across the street from Red Hawk. And this is, I think I want you to run it. So within 3 months of me quitting my job, I had the opportunity.
How's that happen? Right? Right? You put yourself out there.
Put myself out there.
Right? If you had not done that, if you had not taken that risk and put yourself out there, none of this exists.
Yeah, man.
There could be anything. There could be a dry cleaner in there right now.
Yeah,
right?
And that's real. That's real. Martin Luther King said that. He said, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step, man.
One of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, I think if you guys are not following James on Facebook and seeing his daily blogs, you're doing yourself a disservice. I literally wake up in the morning and that's...
I appreciate that.
The things that you do. I'm sorry, I don't want to turn it back on you, but I just wanted to say it. If you are listening, please do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Please do that. That's important. That's one of those things that's one of those gems. But man, then we started, within a few months later, we started to shape the idea of what Atithi is supposed to be. We cut the ribbon, and it was a dream, man. But I knew it was a grand opportunity. When I left that job as a security guard, I did promise myself that I would never work a job again. I'm not saying I would never work, but I'd rather work with somebody than for somebody. Right. I just felt that entrepreneurial fire in me. Right. But this opportunity came up, and it wasn't really working for somebody. It was helping them create something. So I adjusted to that, and that's what we did. We sat down, we game planned. I got a chance to first be at my first board meetings, my first meetings in general with, screens. And it was different. It was first uncomfortable. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. Okay. But as time went on, I just worked hard. I did my research. I buckled down, and I realized that I was enough. And I started to work. And I really find, like, when you don't know what to do, work. Find a direction to go and work. Even if it's not the right direction, the fact that you're moving, you're going to figure it out. You got to
preach that, because that's something that's missed. Especially by a lot of young folks, right? And I see that, in my day job, I'm in the engineering industry. I'm not an engineer, but I'm in the engineering business, and I work with a lot of the best and brightest, really. A lot of professional engineers, PhDs, the whole 9 yards. Right. And what I see with young people coming out of college, right? They don't have that work ethic. Yeah. And that's you have to have that. Yeah.
You can't do it without it. Right. You can't think your way through this. There's going to be some actions. There has to be something else. It takes both.
It comes back to implementing that knowledge.
Right. And that's why you got to love it.
Yeah. You take what's off that page, right? Yeah. You absorb that, but then you've got to put it back out there.
Mm-hmm. You said something earlier too about that's why you got to love it. Because I was telling you, I'm doing I forgot what you said something about, that's what gives you the energy to do it. You got to.
Yeah, because listen, if it doesn't come from your heart, if you don't love what you're doing, right, you'll never succeed. right? That's how success comes. Because if you love what you're doing, you'll put that effort in there. You'll put that work in there, right?
Gotcha.
You'll go out and practice. You'll get better. You know, you'll keep throwing art out there. You'll throw away more than what you'll keep, because you'll keep refining it, right? Yeah. And I'm not a creative guy, but I know, like when I write, you know, I can't tell you how much. I'll go and I'm halfway done. I say, I don't like where that's going. And I go back to the beginning. Yeah. So, but if you don't, and I didn't know it, just like you, the only thing I wrote before, say 10 years ago, was proposals, right? I wasn't a writer. I never had a journalism class or an English class. But when I had somebody tell me, a mentor of mine, that the fellow that called here when we were,
Marvin, that's what it was.
So it's like, you know, keep a journal. Right. And when I mentioned that to another mentor of mine, he said, "Oh yeah, that's the best thing you could do." Right. So put that journal on your nightstand. When you wake up in the morning, before you even get out of bed, write your first thoughts down in that journal, because that's the purest, most honest thought you'll have all day, because it comes from right here. So it's in your heart. Right. So I started doing that, and that's where the writing came from. Okay. But when I realized from that, like you, I realized that I enjoy this. I love writing. I'm getting this stuff all in my heart's lightening up as I'm doing it. So, but if I didn't love it, you know, I've written that blog, good, bad, or indifferent, every single day for 10 years. I don't miss a day. And I feel like there's been days when, you know, you don't feel like you don't feel like doing that every day.
No,
right?
No.
But you know, you got to do that. You got to get that out there on that canvas.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's going to be those points where you hit a wall where it's like, do I really love this? And what I tend to do, I feel like works for me, is find another reason to love it more. So it comes in with like the research, you know, it comes in by using some of the like, it's so weird. It's just, our brain gets tired of looking at the same thing.
Sure.
It's just how it works. I'm not I'm not a doctor or anything, but it just feels like when you continuously look at the same thing, it does tend to dull the feeling of importance, right?
Right.
So what I do is I tend to, when that happens, I find another reason to love it. I have to deepen my understanding of it so I can have more room to love. Because I love this so much. I got to the ceiling and now I got to raise the ceiling. So I have to understand more of it. So I dig in a little deeper, and I was like, and I find something that I didn't know. And then I was like, oh, I got another avenue to travel. And that just compounds, man.
That's exactly right.
You know what I mean?
It's
the same with relationships. You know, there was a point in my relationship, you know, where I felt that there was there was a ceiling that we hit, right?
Sure.
But there's more digging that you have to do, and anything great takes work. It may start off good, but there's going to be some things that you're going to have to go through to continue it to have that feeling, and that's what's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a journey. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to navigate it. It's supposed to make you think, and it's going to make you earn the love. You have to earn that love. It's not going to just come.
You're exactly right, because it's so easy to get angry. It's so easy to get frustrated. It's so easy to hate. You could find a million reasons to hate something or somebody, right?
1,000,001.
Find that one reason and to love them, right? And it's, since I walked in that door, you have used that word probably 100 times. And I do that, right? I mean, because there's no reason for me not to love everybody, right? There's not a single human being on this earth that I'm better than, and there's not a single human being that's better than me. Absolutely. We're all in this together.
Absolutely.
Right? So why would it be hard for me to love you? Well, it's hard to love Nick because
Nick's side.
Yeah.
What's up, Nick?
He's not even paying attention to what we're talking. He has no idea what we're even talking about.
Leave a comment for Nick, guys. Yeah.
But you and I, we're not only different, right? You're black, I'm white. That's easy to see. I'm old, you're young, right? Yeah. So we don't have anything in common, but yet we connected over that word.
Absolutely.
Right? When you came and sat down in that chair that day, there was an immediate connection. I didn't know anything about you, but just when you started telling that story, right, it clicked with me. you know, and then as we followed up and got to know each other better, that it just, this dude's real, right?
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
I want to circle back.
Let's get it. Let's get it,
I want
man.
to circle
I'm
back
ready. I'm ready
because
for all the smoke.
you mentioned your relationship.
Yeah.
And how that relationship came to be with your wife.
Oh, with my wife.
That is that's a story right there. I mean, and if you don't mind, share that story, because
absolutely
it's going back to when you were getting chemo. You were in that moment.
Absolutely.
Again with with cancer. The worst thing that happened to you, the best thing that happened to you. This
was the perfect piece to have behind us, King by Darkness, right? The worst thing that ever happens to you usually provides the best things for you to take forward in life. So as I went through, as I was diagnosed with cancer and I was starting to get chemo, I get it every other week with the geezers. I call them the old geezers. I love those guys. I was always the youngest person in the room, so we had to make it fun. We always did. We had a blast in there. But while I was in this room where they access your port and give you the chemo, they would always bring in these nursing students, right? It was great. Like nursing students from Duquesne University or from Pitt to give them the experience that they would need to go out in there in the world and use, right? So they would let them access our ports, which was a minute thing that would happen, that has to happen. Now, for those out there that don't know, when you access a port, it's a needle. It's about maybe 2 inches long, and they put a device underneath the skin of your chest, that connects to your main artery, and they have to access it. So it's like a needle that goes in there. You really don't, you do feel a little pinch, but it's nothing too crazy. I know it says 2 inches long, but you only feel it kind of penetrate the skin, and that's how they inject the chemo and everything else like that, and flush it and everything, whatever. But this is what they had to learn, and you really can't learn this on like a inanimate object. You can't. You have to use this. You have to learn this in real life. So all the older people, they already going through enough. They don't want nobody sticking them. Right. But what I looked at it as was an opportunity for me to talk to people my age. So I'm like, come on over here and talk with me, and you can access my port. It would be cool. And I was always like, it didn't bother me. They had the numbing spray. If some people used that, some people didn't. I didn't, because I'm strong and I'm tough. No, but no, I did sometimes. But they would come and access my port, and one day these 2 ladies came in. One was African, actually from Africa. One was African descent. They're still friends to this day, and they accessed my port, and I'm sitting there talking to this lady, and I was like, she's cool. And we exchanged numbers, and within 2-3 years later, we were married. So I met my wife. You're
getting chemo and you're exchanging numbers with
I was a pretty
girl,
no,
man. That's awesome. It's awesome.
I told you it was an opportunity. I had to take it.
You're built different, brother. You're built different.
Hey, man, I like to believe that. No, but man, I wasn't dead, man. I'm living, and I've really lived my life. Like I didn't live like what you expect. I didn't want sympathy. I didn't want. I wanted just to be normal, and I was actually excited to be living. So I started going out. I would literally I'd work out and stuff. Like I would come back. This was the funny thing. So I would go back, and they had to access your port. They would have to lift your shirt up. I had abs, man. So the old women would be like, woo. They would wait for me to lift my shirt. Because look, man, I was lit with the fire of living. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going out like that.
Believe it or not, that doesn't burn bright for everybody.
Yeah, I know, and it's unfortunate, but it takes work, man. And I think everybody's different, But for me,
do you think that being faced with that fire, let's go with that theme. Do you think being faced with that fire being extinguished really ignited that and raised that flame for you?
Absolutely. And also, like I said, it was one of those things where I had to tap into something that made it a positive. Like, hold up, if I do it and I also have the title, I'm gonna say it because I can say it, the title of cancer, it makes it that much more great. So I was like, I was using so weird. I was like, if I do, like, you could do this, but if I do it, it's a little bit better. I'm competitive and petty a little bit. Sure. But also,
we all are to a certain extent.
But also,
we all have that.
It put me on this routine of accomplishing things. Like, okay, I accomplished this. Okay, I accomplished that. Okay, the cancer's smaller this time. So I was starting to goal set, and I started to like how that felt. I start,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And also I like to, I felt like people were inspired by my story because I always came there with a smile. Don't get me wrong. There'll be times I break down
Sure.
because I'm young, you know, that's part of the process, but I usually like to bring the joy, man. That was my thing, you know, and make it fun. I'm young. Yeah, y'all gonna laugh in here. We're gonna talk crap, you know, we're gonna talk about, you know, us all going bald in here. You know what I'm saying? It was a secret society, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know, it was great, man. I tried to make it as much of an enjoyable time, and I had to laugh to stop from crying, but it was also important to cry as well.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because and that's something I think also did affect me later in life was I feel like I didn't understand the seriousness of it because of my ignorance of age. Because my age, you know, I only lived so much life, so
Right.
I only have so much to care about. Where, you know, as I got older, I start to understand the true importance of what happened,
Right.
and how close I was, and it made me more grateful. But it took me a lot longer to grieve than I think the average person as well. Which it was some mental gymnastics that was happening in this whole process. But I still feel like this is my grieving process is by talking about it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Everybody grieves differently, and
yeah.
you know, you can't be. And I love the fact that you have the courage to go out and talk about it, right? Because that's important. You internalize that, you're never going to move past it.
Right. That's real. That's real. I think we only got so much space inside of us, and if it gets to the top and it spills out, that's when the stuff gets ugly. So I feel like by talking about it, kind of releases it, and it leaves more space to put good stuff in.
Sure.
You know, that's how I look at it.
Right.
But yeah, man, and that's why I love talking about these. I love being open about, you know, trials and tribulations, man. That's it.
Okay, so you let's review here. You're getting chemo. You have a beautiful nursing student
I gotta finish that story because some things happen.
Takes your accesses your port, and you exchange numbers. Which listen,
and then
I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
And I've been around a long time, but I'm going to tell you, if you are picking up a girl when you're sitting there getting chemo, you're a badass.
I tend to believe that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
So, all right. So listen. So now
there's another piece of that story. Once you get through this, there's another piece.
I know. That's where I'm going. You know where I'm going. You know where I'm going.
I like your style, James. I like your style.
So you meet this woman, and in a couple of years you get married. Okay. So where you go after you get married, that's not where this story ends.
No. They told me, man. So going through the chemo was supposed to neutralize me. I was not going to be able to have children. That's what I was told from the get-go. Right. Right when I was 19, they had told me they couldn't put, you know, because it's still alive, you know, sperm cells were still alive. They would be able to put those on, you know, on ice. But they asked me if I wanted to do that. I said no, because I truly said, I said this word verbatim: God's going to bless me with a child the way he does, even if it's not from me. You know what I'm saying? I said that. I don't know where that came from. I BS you not. I have no idea why I said that. But that's what I said. And I just continue on with the journey. I just didn't want to do it that way. There's enough people. I didn't have enough friends that didn't have parents. Like, you know, once I make it through this, we're gonna figure it out. So, so I met my wife, and we got married. And right before I proposed to her, I found out something. We were at my mom's house, and she was like, I think I'm pregnant. And my oncologist was like, there's no way. There's no way.
He didn't say no, actually said no way.
Zero possibility that's happening. I know my wife, me and my wife are together every day. I know this is me, right? I'm not questioning.
There's no doubt, no question.
No question. Right. This is my love, right? So I was like, yo, I came to him, he said, are you serious? I said, yes. And he knows my wife as well, because now they know, of course, he's taking me to chemo sometimes. She's coming in with me.
Right.
You know, he's like, oh shit. you're having a baby. I was like, yeah, I'm having a baby. So my wife was like, oh, we're actually gonna be able to have one. So we had my beautiful daughter, Iona Renee. She was my miracle baby, you know. So 2 years passed, and that's still saying I can't have kids. Period. BS.
Even though she's standing right there. So wait a minute.
My wife was like, these guys lied to us because 2 years later I had another one. Yeah, another one popped out. Ava Elizabeth, and then my wife looked at me like this has to stop. This has to stop. Okay, we're good. We're good.
We're good now.
Yeah. So but yeah, man. So that was I got two miracle babies, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about the miracle of birth, and it is a miracle because I've witnessed it many, many times. But they are miracles.
Yeah.
I mean, you were told by medical professionals, seasoned,
Absolutely.
experienced, talented medical professionals that you would never have children.
Never.
And you have two beautiful daughters.
2 beautiful girls. Yeah, 2 beautiful girls. And they are
Because
the most amazing.
Faith. You have faith.
Yeah.
You had faith, brother. That's what this is all about. And I'm not a preacher, man, but I've been on this spiritual journey now to get to know myself and who I am literally as a human. Right. And I shared today about something my father shared with me about, we're not humans on a spiritual journey, we're spirits on a human journey. Whew. Right. So, the thing of it is, that's true. Yeah. And when I started to think about that, that's when I was able to let go of all those preconceived notions and all that crap that was floating around my head and just breathe and believe. Right. And you did that. Yours was extreme. Cancer led you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It was the gift.
And mine was a little bit different. It was no less traumatic and disastrous, but at the end of the day, something traumatic led us to where we needed to be.
Yeah. Everybody has this story. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm finding out. Everybody has this story. Everybody, this just because it was cancer doesn't make it like better than like we were talking about before. Like everyone has this journey. Mine's maybe words that hit a little harder, but if you really look in the mirror, everybody has this. Mm-hmm. It's really the journey of life.
Everybody's fighting a battle.
Everybody.
You're going to fight those battles as you go along your journey. Right. I mean, if you're living it all. Okay.
That's what I love.
If you're living it all, you're going to screw up. Absolutely. Bad things are going to happen to you. Yes. Right? I mean, it's inevitable. Yeah, it's inevitable. Nobody has a perfect life, and it's not going to happen. So if you're putting yourself out there and you're living your life to its fullest, bad stuff's going to happen.
Yeah. Don't do that to yourself if you are listening to. Like I was on that journey. Like, oh man, everything's got to be peaches and cream and rainbows and gumdrops. That's not how this works, man. That's just not how this works. It's actually it's a goal that can't be accomplished. I'm not saying don't attempt, but I'm
strive
just
for it. Absolutely.
Sometimes you strive for the impossible to get the best out of yourself. I get it, right? But you got to understand that this is all part of the process, man. Right. The world's gonna punch you in the mouth. It's gonna shatter you, goddamn it.
That's exactly right.
It's your responsibility to grab those pieces, put them together, and keep serving, man.
Yeah. Every time you get knocked down, stand back up. Don't stay down. Getting knocked down is not a choice. Staying down is the choice.
That's it. Right?
Man. That's the choice.
That's it.
I love this. So after this, now you've got this beautiful family now. Mm-hmm. So where do you go from there?
Where do I go from there? All right. So it took me, I think, about 5 years of going through chemo. Then I accomplished the goal of ringing that bell. You know what I mean? And I beat it. And this is the tough part.
So your babies were with you then?
Yeah, my babies were there now. I got my beautiful girls. But then most people think, beating cancer was supposed to be the highlight of this story, where that's actually where it turned sour. Okay. After I beat it, because it was really the toughest time so far in my life. Was after I beat it, because I accomplished the thing that I lived for, and I didn't have anything else afterwards.
Right. Where you
and so what I did was I fell back into the same mentality I had before the cancer happened, and I started to lose my way. I started to drink and I started partying because I felt like I already won. I had that sense of hubris, you know what I mean? And it got bad, man. It got bad. I was walking
Did you feel invincible at that point?
Yeah, I was walking around invincible. Like I felt invincible. I felt like nothing could take me out.
Well, I mean, if cancer couldn't take you out, what can, right?
Yeah, but I get it. But that was wrong. That was wrong. You know what I mean? Because, you know, as my story was so grand, you know, by that time in my mind, you know what I'm saying, I felt like there was no way to top it, so why try? And I start going down this hill, you know, rolling down like a snowball, man. It got bigger and bigger. It started drinking more, started partying more, hanging around the wrong people. The worst thing, which was the best thing, happened. You know, this woman that was with me, you know, she looked at me. The one that was with me when I was at my worst, that treated me like I was at my best. The one that you know, sat in those chairs with me, looked at me and told me, if I continue down this path, I'm going. And when I heard that shit, God damn, I said, you know what? Because this is what I'm drinking. I'm drinking, you know, I'm drinking every day. You know, they say alcoholic is somebody who can drink when they can, like when the opportunity presents itself. I cannot not drink. You know what I'm saying? I was like drowning out this pain of not being able to accomplish, of all types of things that was going on. I was dealing with what just happened. I started going to therapy, but it wasn't hitting at that time. But when she told me that, I was like, okay, I got to change. So for my birthday, I was, I was 30, I'm 36. I'm at that age where I got to start doing subtraction when I'm thinking about my age and addition. I believe I was 30 at this time. And I was like, for my birthday, I told my wife, I was like, I need you to take me to the hospital for my birthday. And I put myself in rehab. I gave myself that gift, and I told her when I come back, it's because it's already started. But I told her I need to like solidify this, because I was like quitting, but I was still on it. I just needed to get it out of my system, because I couldn't. 2
steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, which was part of the process, you know. But I was like, nah, let's nip it in the butt. So I went to rehab, man. And
what was that like?
It was a blast, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I was around people that wanted what I wanted, you know, and I found out, like, you know, what was happening. You know, it was a great insight on you know, how we usually approach this. I've seen people that have been there multiple times, and they were able to tell me about some of the lessons they learned about what happens after you get done, and dealing again with the hubris of going through rehab, thinking you're invincible because you have this skill, like, you know what I mean? Or you have this information. We had some real conversations. I have some real friends that I still talk to till this day. Unit 3, what's up? Shout out. We still strong over here.
There you go.
Unit 3. Yeah, that's how we do it. And you know, people from all walks of life, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. I found my confidence again, and then I knew at that time I was equipped to give us a real chance. So that it didn't stop there, because it never stops. You know, this is the finish line's an illusion. Just remember that, okay, guys? It's an illusion.
Absolutely.
Do not put a finish line. Don't put a period where, don't put a comma where God, you know, I forgot. There's a saying out there, but just remember the finish line's an illusion. So I, you know, after I got out of rehab, the best part about it was still having that community. So I went to, you know, I did the other steps that you do when you get out of rehab that a lot of people skip, and going into like a soft type of place, like another place where there's groups that you can talk to. And I did that, and I continued on my journey, and it was tough, man. It was tough. And I'm still, you know, I'm still working through that. But it's still a beautiful journey.
It's a lifetime thing, though.
Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I've been there. You know, that's the thing. You know, addiction doesn't have a schedule. It doesn't know race. It doesn't know gender. I mean, it's the great equalizer, right? It brings everybody down to the same level. Yeah. And when you're trying to climb up from that, it doesn't matter what you're addicted to, right? It could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be porn, it could be anything.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, human beings, unfortunately, could become addicted to anything.
Absolutely.
Right? That's just who we are. It's our nature.
Right.
And that journey, that climb back up, you know, I talk a lot about sitting on my ass on rock bottom. I've been there, right? I've been there. And it doesn't matter what puts you there, right? No. When you're there, once you're there and you're looking up and you're trying to figure out how to climb up out of that.
Yeah.
Right. That
was one of the best places for me to be, though. It was beautiful.
You have made something beautiful out of every bad thing that's happened. You've come around and turned that. You've learned those lessons.
There's no other place to go but up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the best place. Like, it's not the best place, but if you're in that space, congratulations.
You've got an opportunity. You got to grow up from there.
Yeah, you got an opportunity. And sometimes I felt like it wasn't just rock bottom. It was like thoroughly beaten. You know, it felt like if you feel like you're beneath it, even better. That means you have more of an opportunity.
Right.
And also, you know, anything you do you're going to see value out of it.
Every adversity, every obstacle is an opportunity.
Yeah. So, and I look at it like that. I don't know if there's no other way for me to look at things. And I think it's a good mentality to embody.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's just one of those things.
Well, that's what brought me to where I am. You know, I was much later in life, but at the end of the day, because my journey really started when I was around your age. You are now, right? And it wasn't something that just happened overnight. You don't flip a switch and all of a sudden, I'm good now, right? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. No, man, because it's like, you know, I'd go forward and then slide back, and then go forward and slide back, and much like you, I've been blessed with a woman who actually is a million times stronger than I could ever possibly be, right? And she's the one that, you know, she's held my hand when I needed it. She's kicked me in the ass when I needed it, you know, and that is, I mean, she literally saved my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah, I believe that 150%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes that, you know, and shout out to those ladies.
You can't do it alone. There's I mean, you can't do it alone. And I think until you get to that point where you say, okay, I've been trying this, and I'm not very good at it. So, you know, until you actually get to that point, because I never wanted, you know, people say you need to get help. You need to, no. I don't need that.
Right.
I mean, I'm cool. I mean, I got it. You know, but until you get to that point where, all right, yeah, you're right. I got to talk to somebody. Right. You know, that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think this is trickled, like it's dribbled all throughout this story is like, you got to do it for something that's bigger than myself.
Right.
If I can't do it for me, I have to find something that is bigger.
Right. For
me to really make it sustainable, but I have to be in it. It's kind of weird because addiction is you versus you. Everything is you versus you, but that's something that it won't be sustainable if you can't bring it back to really doing it for yourself. But to just get you to make the first steps.
That first inspiration has to come.
Yeah, it has to come from somewhere. So if it's not coming from the person that's looking in the mirror, find something for it to come for. And that's going to be a journey. That's going to be you're going to have to dig. You're going to have to, you know, figure it out, but try anything. It don't matter. Anything.
Because it will eventually circle back to you.
Absolutely.
You know, no matter who you start doing it for, the fact that you're starting.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
And sooner or later, as you start taking those steps forward, you're going to look in that mirror.
Yeah.
And then it's going to come back. It's going to come back to you.
Absolutely. And and remember, you know what I found out about addiction in that whole thing? It's actually a superpower. You know how to love something to death. You know how to you just know.
That's an interesting way to look at it.
You know how to love something to death. So if you can just adjust the thing that you're actually loving, so I don't think it goes anywhere. But what you have to do is transfer the energy. So if you transfer that, I'm telling you, you're dangerous. If you transfer that energy to something you love, whoever's in that industry, they don't know how to love something to death. You actually have that skill.
Gives you an advantage.
You know what I'm saying?
You're absolutely
right.
You
actually have that skill. So if you adjust it to something that's a little more positive, to something that's a little bit more, that is more productive, I'm telling you, you have no choice but to win. It's wild. It's so wild. But I've some of the best business people I ever met, some of the most strategic people I ever met. If you transfer that to business, I'm telling you, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they ain't got a chance. It's just the way you can think, the way that you can actually love something that's what it takes is a lot of love. And you know how to love.
That passion is not something that, you know, again, you're talking about skills that they don't teach in school.
You can't
they don't
learn
teach this stuff, and you can't learn it from a book. You got to feel it.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and be kicked in the face, right, and get knocked down, and you got to be bloody, and you got to have those scars. You have to have them.
The greatest philosopher of all time said this. He says, what did Mike Tyson say? Because he's the one I'm talking about. You get punched in the face.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Everybody has a plan to get punched in the face, man.
That's true.
But
how true is that?
But they say true champions, man. True champions are the ones that will be able to be knocked down and get up. Those are the ones that are remembered. Those are the ones that are remembered. That's where you want to be at. You want to be able to take it, and because the fall's common, like we said. Right. But it's what you're gonna do after that thing.
Well,
that's
exactly
all that counts.
Right. Nobody gets out of this life undefeated.
I dig that.
Right? You're not, only Father Time is undefeated.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's figured out how to beat him yet.
None
of us will get out of this life at the end. We're not going to get out of it alive. We're all going to come. The destination for everybody is the same.
Same place.
Right? It's the same place. We're all, and when we get to that point, we're all equal.
Absolutely.
Okay. But it's what we do along the way.
Yeah.
Between here and there.
There's a funny thing. It was everybody's going to be on that bed one day where their life flashes before their eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it's our responsibility to make sure that movie's worth watching, man.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a great way to put it.
It's so, go out there and do something beautiful, man. World is counting on you.
That's exactly right. I mean? That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Just bringing this all back. Right. You have done something at a younger age, an age where I couldn't do it. I was in the midst of it. It took me a long time. But you've been able to take your journey and all these things that have happened to you, right? And put those together and do the math to become this dude right here.
Man.
Okay?
I can really, that's one thing I haven't been able to say in years, in my whole life, but I'm as I look back on it, I'm so happy of the person that I've become and the relationships that I've built, and the nuggets that I picked up on the way that wouldn't have happened if these trials and tribulations weren't a part of it. And the gift of those, the gift of hard times, you're not supposed to go through a journey always surviving. That means we're missing something there. But if you go through that period of time and it's not going right, and the world feels like it's caving in on you, there is something that happened every time when all of those problems that you just heard of happen. And I'm gonna tell you what it is. When that happens to you, find something. This is gonna sound cliche, but I mean this. If you find something to be grateful for. Find something. There's a way.
We all have something.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It could be small. It could be a little thing.
Absolutely. There's a positive in every negative, and there's a negative in every positive. Just like beating cancer, right? There was a negative in that because I developed hubris. But having cancer, there was the positive in that as well, right? So I learned how to fight. That is with every last thing in this world.
And you learned how to not quit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even if you fail, true failure is no attempt.
Everybody needs to know how to fail.
You
have to learn. You get more from failing. You get more from losing than you do winning.
Yeah.
You learn more from losing than you do winning. Everybody has to, especially young people, everyone has to know how to fail. You have to learn that. That's a learned skill.
Yeah. I think I said in your last podcast, and I got this. This is a Joe Rogan quote, but he says, failure and success live on the same street and they borrow each other's shirts.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
You got to knock on every door.
That is exactly right.
And be okay with it, man. And be okay with it. Understand that if you're not failing, you really ain't going for it.
You're not trying.
You're not dreaming big enough. It's not until you're able to push yourself to that limit where it can go wrong. You need to be there. That's the area where I feel like it's the only place growth happens is when you're uncomfortable, and you have to put yourself in situations that are no longer comfortable because you want to get something.
Do the things that scare you, man. Do the things that scare you.
Yeah.
When everything that you talked about, cancer, all these things, addiction. You're not going to say that you weren't scared to death.
Oh, shit.
You did those things. You stood up and you looked it in the eye. Like you said, when you're in a doctor's office, that first minute when you're 19 years old and you're sitting there with your mother and he said, sit down. No, I'm going to stand up and take this.
I'm gonna take
right?
this.
Oh, guarantee
Yeah.
you were shaking. You were scared.
I was
but
scared
you know what?
to death.
Yeah, but you went past it, and you took that fear
Right.
and made it a superpower.
Yeah, there's a
right?
thing.
That's a superpower. If you can take that fear and make it into something positive and go forward, go through that, that's big.
That's it. Use it as fuel. They say courage is not the absence of fear; it's the triumph over it. That's where I'm at.
There you go.
That's where I'm at. Courage is not the absence of fear; it's the triumph over it. Write that down. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, man. Because
There you go.
that's
what it's
right
all
there
about.
is dope.
That's what it's all about.
I love it.
Listen, brother, thank you so much, my man. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for this.
Love you too.
Fantastic.
Love you too.
I appreciate it.
You know,
and I love this place.
Want to drop some of my handles as well?
Absolutely.
People want to get.
Listen, and what I want to say with everybody out there that watches this show, if you need to check out Corey and the 1028 podcast and the Atithi Studios and all the things that are going on here in Sharpsburg, because this is some really cool stuff. So how do they find you on social?
So there's two ways you guys can find me. There's 1028 podcast that's on Instagram, that's also on Facebook. It's also on YouTube, right? That handle goes on everything, even on Twitter, if I'm not mistaken as well. I don't really mess with Twitter as much, but it is something that I really want to start to inquire in my whole approach. And as well as if you want to check out my art, it's called Move 78. That's MUVE_78. And you guys can, check out some of these pieces that we were talking about. I'm actually working on a virtual exhibition, which I'll be dropping on that YouTube channel that I just talked about. So just stay in tune. If you guys want to hear more stories, the Facebook page, the 1028 podcast, I tend to sometimes go stream and just rant and talk about my day and talk about how I break it down to go forward.
And look for the three of us. We're going to do that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll get it out there. So give you a heads up.
And say shout and thank you to Nick behind the camera, man. We appreciate you, man. You are the dopest, man. I appreciate you. And actually, because of you, some of this is what's happening at 1028's happening. So thank you for that. You guys are doing a great job, James. You guys are doing a great job. I love this. I'm loving this. I'm fired up, my guy.
I'm proud. I'm honored. I'm honored to have you on the show, and this is going to be cool. We're going to do some really cool stuff together. I
can't wait. I can't wait, man. I'm all for it.
All right, my man.
All right.